Hello, listener, and welcome to Jumpers for Goalposts. Join us now at patreon.com/Jumpers Podcast. Now, this week we take a look at some giant killings in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup from 2008. Mush the Matchman is live from the Riverside to see Cardiff City take on Gareth Southgate's Middlesbrough. Dan's Maverick of the Week is 9 feet tall, and this issue's madman is an absolute lunatic with a dodgy French accent, even though he's actually a scouser. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get going.
Proper cup tie here at Bramall Lane. Derek Geary, a man who started his career at Rivermount Boys of Finglas, has the ball. He plays a 1-2 with Keith Loves upon Gillespie. Geary's cross. Richard O.G. Dunn pokes a foot out. City haven't cleared the lines here. It's fallen to Big John Stead. He shoots, he scores! Sheffield United double the lead. Brian Loves a tin, Robson doesn't react. Maybe he's hungover. Bramall Lane is bouncing. Sven Horny Goran Eriksson has work to do here. Is the cup set on?
These next two men love anything football related on the telly, and they have some go-to guilty pleasures when it comes to TV shows. Dan absolutely loves Soccer AM, and sometimes when his missus goes to bed, he takes a notion and watches old episodes of Footballers' Wives. He loves every episode apart from the one where Chardonnay's breasts catch on fire during her hen do as he finds it hard to watch. The Matchman's favourite retro football shows are Renford Rejects and Cartoon The Hurricanes. He sometimes uses inspiration from the Hurricanes to wind up opponents on the pitch, and once whispered into an Enniskillen Rovers player's ear, "Storm time's coming to you today." It's Daniel McIntyre and Connor Elliott, also known as Dan and Mush the Matchman. Dan, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Stephen. A little bit tired this morning after my Footballers' Wives marathon last night, but I'm okay.
Footballers' Wives was a mad show.
It was a mad show, and I think a lot of it was based on true stories.
And here, Dan, I know you're a big fan of Bad Girls as well, right? Is it true that Tanya from Footballers' Wives is in Bad Girls? That's the same character?
That is true, yeah. She goes to jail in Footballers' Wives and ends up in Bad Girls.
Love it.
Two mad shows.
Matchman, you loved some retro shows there as well.
But I love the Hurricanes now. Jeez, they had a few tussles now. Even had a catchy theme tune too, didn't they? Hurricanes.
Oh, that was it. Storm time's coming to you today.
I know so.
But it used to be mad in Hurricanes because it'd start the match and then something would happen that they'd have to get a helicopter out of the game, but then they'd always end up back on the pitch at the end of it to win the game.
They were multitasking.
So, lads, we're taking an old look back at 2008 today. Dan, any memories from this period of football?
Well, we were legally allowed to go out on the town, and there was plenty of £2 pint Friday nights, depending on who we played on the Saturday. Normally, if it was a home fixture, we would find ourselves out on a Friday night, and then, of course, out on the Saturday for the post-mortem after our Saturday fixtures. Great times watching some brilliant players professionally and enjoying some ball ourselves.
Matchman, is that a long sleeve number you've got on for me this week?
It is indeed, Stephen.
I can't believe it.
Yes, the kit I'm wearing is the Fulham away from 2007-2008 season. A large white V-neck, which was contrast to the home kit, which had a vintage colour. Kit designers were Nike, with no suspect dealings in the making at all, as they got their trademark swoosh in front of the stripy number. Sponsored by LG, who gave Yank Casey Keller a free 50-inch TV, which was delivered by fellow Fulham keepers Tony VAT-19 Warner and Anthony Bulbhead Niemi. But they dropped the TV when delivering it, a touch of the butterfingers. Some of the men blessed toward this kit were Morton High Voltage Volts, Paul Egghead Konchesky, Russian gangster Schmierton, and Danny Slaphead Murphy. Northern Irish heroes Aaron Hughes, Chris Bird, and David Healy. Soccer guys invaded with Clint the Sprint Dempsey, Johnson, not Michael, Boccanegra, and club captain Brian McBride. Fruity Boots Kamara, Hangtime Hangelin, and Cheeky Choppy Jamie You know the drill, Bullard. Overseeing these men to wear this kit for the first part of the season was Laurie Sanchez, who then was sacked and replaced with the turtle dove man himself, Roy Duncan's toy chest Hodgson. The kit I'm wearing is Fulham away from 2007-8 season.
Oh, that is lovely. What a side as well. Some retro characters coming up in there. Dan, are you going to let him away with this long sleeve just because it's Fulham, it's the Turtle Doves, it's Roy Hodgson? Are you in a good mood today to let him off with this long sleeve?
He saved himself there at the end with the king of the Turtle Doves, or the master of the Turtle Doves, Roy Hodgson, taking over from Laurie Sanchez. I'm feeling maybe the Mush man needed a change because there was a change in management, so I'm going to let this one slide.
Good stuff. And what have you got on for us today, Dan?
Yes, today I'm wearing the Everton home kit from the 2007-2008 season. The design had a white V-neck with a lovely yellow trim around the edges with 2 white diamonds on each shoulder. A little bit jazzy and there for no reason, but it's part of the shirt and I like it. Of course, blue is the main colour on this beauty and it has the classic Everton badge. Sponsored by the beautiful Chang beer. Kit designed by mushroom makers and 90s Kings Umbro, who had settled the heads in the mid-noughties. Managed by David Moyes, aka Mo Sislak, and finished a brilliant 5th in the Premier League this season. Players, oh my goodness, who wore this jersey. Tony Hibbert and Leighton Baines, Yobo, Lescott, Kendall, Mikel Arteta, Party Lover, Andy van der Meijden, Kangaroo, Tim Cahill, Phil Lesser Neville, Jack Robbed, Sunderland Rodwell, Phil and Grant, Carsley and Gravison, Benjamin Yakubu Button, Belfast Tash, Stephen Pienaar, and Max Branning, Andy Johnson. What a kit. I'm delighted the word. It's got a classic look. Everton 07-08.
I completely forgot about Stephen Pienaar. He was brilliant for Everton, wasn't he?
He was a very tricky winger for Everton, but mostly overshadowed, in my opinion, by his Belfast moustache that probably took a yard off his pace. But yeah, a tricky little player.
Okay, now it's time to look back at the best and worst bits of business of the 2007-2008 season. This is Transfer Business.
Yes, Stephen, and my 5 best bits of business are as follows. In at 5, it's Gary Cahill, who moved from Aston Villa to Bolton Wanderers for £5.5 million. I cannot believe Aston Villa sold this man. He's a top centre-back and would be for a number of years. Oh, what might have been for him at Aston Villa. In at number 4, it's Phil Jagielka, who made the move from relegated Sheffield United to Everton. And David Moyes snapped Big Phil up for £4 million. What a signing he would prove to be for Everton. He stayed there over 10 years and more than proved his worth. In at number 3, it's Fernando Torres. And yes, Rafa Benitez, after signing 33 strikers in 2 seasons, had finally found his man as he signed Fernando from Atletico Madrid for £20 million plus Luis Garcia. And what a signing Fernando would prove to be for Liverpool, really giving them that edge and forming a good partnership with Steven Gerrard. In at number 2, it's Carlos Tevez, who moved from West Ham United to Manchester United in a 2-year loan deal, reported cost of £25 million. We will never know the truth about this deal. There's nothing I could find to tell me otherwise, but that is something that came up consistently. It was a £25 million 2-year loan deal. Tevez was a huge hit at Manchester United before moving on to Manchester City, but in those 2 years that he spent at the Red Devils, he won everything in sight and was a very, very good signing.
Matchman, what is it about these Argentinian, South American players? They're owned by a syndicate. They're cockfighting in their spare time. What is it about these guys? Why can't they just sign for a club? No funny business.
I was always stumped by Tevez, as Dano's mentioned there. We still don't know who owned him. You know, was it a syndicate, a consortium? Was he won on a poker game? Nobody knows. You know, he was a brilliant player, but everywhere he went, there was a bit of controversy with him regarding who owned him.
And at number 1, and I've went for potential this week in a season of strange deals, and I've went for Gareth Bale, who moved from Southampton to Tottenham Hotspur for £7 million. What a piece of potential Tottenham had bought. Who would have believed the career Gareth Bale would go on to have? But clearly, the men at Spurs seen something in him, and he would turn down moves to Arsenal and Manchester United to go to Tottenham to guarantee himself better chance of first team football. But it all worked out in the end, a great piece of business all round. And when you consider that he left later on for somewhere between 80 and 90 million pounds, what a bit of business.
A lovely deal, Dan. He had that mad stat, didn't he, when he was playing at left back, where he hadn't won a game in any game he'd played or something?
He did. An outrageous sort of thing to be carrying around on your shoulders. And I'm sure there was certain games, because this is probably players and managers' minds as well, there was probably certain games where like, oh, I can't play him today because he's jinxed, you know.
Yeah.
And he was held back a little bit in his development. But look, I mean, he was never a left back. The man has, and he went on to prove that when Harry Redknapp came along and played him further up the pitch and had that great spell with under Andre Villas-Boas as well. And we all know what he did at Real Madrid. A world-class player, Gareth Bale.
Matchman, have you got some worse bits of business for us?
In at number 5 is Rolando Bianchi, £8.8 million from Regina to Manchester City. Horny Swede Sven-Goran Eriksson took a punt on the Italian, while Sven took a punt on a few players in his time and signed no fewer than 10 players this season. Bianchi only notched 4 goals in 19 appearances, which was actually City's second top goal scorer that season. He criticised English cuisine and alcohol culture and stated how he would never become a full international unless he returned to Serie A. He was loaned out to Lazio in January and never returned, as Sven brought in Benjani, and Bianchi never did become an Italian international. Number 4, it's Kieran Dyer. Dyer completed the move to West Ham for £6 million from Newcastle United. He was blighted by injury and only made 34 appearances in 4 years, where he never completed a full 90 minutes once. And to boot, he scored no goals and only had 1 assist. At West Ham, he was one of their biggest earners, and under the ownership of Sullivan, not the keeper Neil, Dyer was told to follow Dean Ashton into retirement. Dyer said no and demanded a £1 million release bonus. Sullivan said no, and finally he let his contract run down, costing him nearly £450,000 for every match he played in. And we called Darren Anderton a sick note.
You obviously went to that Leeds and Newcastle game when Dyer was probably in his pomp and ran the show. Sad here to see a player a few years later just a waste.
Oh, he had no luck with injuries, and even then, in his Newcastle days, as brilliant as he was, and I loved watching him live. He was so quick and skillful. He had injuries and they just slowed him down. And at that time, West Ham were making some mad moves in the transfer market. They were kind of signing all around them for the sake of signings. But certainly injuries deprived them of having a really, really top career. I think if he'd have stayed fit at Newcastle, his next move wouldn't have been a West Ham United. It would have been a much bigger club.
Number 3, it's Alan Hutton from Rangers to Tottenham Hotspur for £9 million. Hutton had starred for the Gers, so Wande Ramos, who replaced Martin Jol as Spurs manager, brought Hutton in to fight for right back with Pascal Chambonda. This worked as he started the League Cup final, which Spurs won, beating Chelsea. However, that was as good as it got for Alan, and 55 league appearances in 3.5 years. He was loaned out to Sunderland before getting a permanent move to Aston Villa. Number 2, it's David Nugent, £6 million from Preston North End to Portsmouth. After both Sunderland and Portsmouth had bids in the region of £6 million accepted for the player, Nugent was eventually unveiled as a Pompey player at a press conference alongside John Utaka, a man who may have been 65 at the time of his transfer. After only being signed for the club, a few weeks later, Portsmouth manager Harry Redknapp publicly stated Nugent would be free to leave the club if the right offer came in to help fund a move for more players. Come on, Harry, give the lad a chance. 18 months at the club to notch his first Premiership goal, which was against his former manager Harry Redknapp at Tottenham Hotspur. In 3 seasons and 34 appearances in the Premier League for Pompey, he only notched 3 goals. So maybe Harry had a point. He did help them win the FA Cup, and in 2016, Nugent served as best man at former teammate Jimmy Vardy's wedding. What a party that must have been.
Dan, do you remember this signing at the time? Like, Nugent was seen as this New England hero that was going to come in and light up the Premier League. What happened?
Well, the opposite happened. He was a big fish in the Championship, and sometimes these deals work out. Roy Keane, I feel, had a very lucky escape with Nugent not bringing him to Sunderland because he would have been on big wages there. And Harry, you know, he would have coaxed him over, you know, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that for you, this is what's going to happen, you're going to do brilliant things at Portsmouth. It doesn't happen. He even had an England cap by that point as well. He stole a goal on his England debut as well. If any listeners want to go and search that on YouTube, the ball's going over the line, he runs and then boots it. And they're quite right. 18 months for your first league goal, I think, says everything. And an example of maybe a player who just wasn't ready for that.
And number 1, it's Alfonso Alaves. Middlesbrough boss Gareth Southgate shelled out a club record 12.5 million to bring Alves to the Riverside from Dutch side Hervin. Alves had a better scoring record in Holland than the Brazilian Ronaldo, as he notched 45 goals in 39 games. Got off to a fairly decent start to his Borough career, a brace against Manchester United in the snow and a hat-trick against Manchester City on the last day of the season in an 8-1 demolition. But it was the following season, a record of 4 goals in 31 games as Middlesbrough were relegated. He did go on to have a career in the Qatar League where goals were rewarded with luxury cars. And that concludes my worst bits of business.
Is that why Dan's got 5 Ferraris sitting in the driveway? You get a car for every goal, Dan?
Oh, he only scored 1 goal in 5 seasons, so no such luck.
Dan, were you happy to see another Dutchman in the Premiership at this stage, or were you thinking this guy's a bluffer?
I do remember this deal coming in, and he came with a big reputation, as the matchman has just said about his record in Holland, and I thought Southgate got a steal. Clearly they didn't do their homework on the type of person he was, the type of personality he was. They weren't able to look after him. He wasn't able to deal with weather conditions and so on, and a terrible bit of business. And I think Gareth Southgate was a young manager at the time, and probably he was found out a little bit in the transfer market with the signings that he made for Middlesbrough, which obviously resulted in them getting relegated a year later. So a terrible piece of business and a steep learning curve for young Southgate.
Lads, I've got a wee bizarre bit of business for you, and you'll all know what this one is. And it's Steve Sidwell, who signed for Chelsea on a free transfer. Now, people at the time raised eyebrows because Chelsea already had a midfield that contained Michael Ballack, Michael Essien, Frank Lampard. And where would Sidwell even fit in here? He said, I'm not here to make up the numbers. But the bizarrest thing about this whole transfer is when he gets a call from Jose Mourinho, Mourinho invites him up to his house. And Sidwell arrives at his house, and there's security at Mourinho's house, and the security let him in. And he says, I'm Steve Sidwell, I've got a meeting with Jose. Okay, in you go. So Sidwell is sitting in Mourinho's house in his living room. Mourinho is nowhere to be seen. He can hear Mrs. Mourinho making the dinner, and he is clearly just intruded on the house without Jose actually inviting him down. Jose eventually comes down the stairs, completely surprised to see Steve Sidwell sitting in his living room, but they go on and talk business anyway. And Steve Sidwell signs for Chelsea, and the most bizarre thing of this whole transfer is Mourinho gives him the number 9 shirt. Dan, what do we make of this?
Fair play, Steve Sidwell. I think this game, we're not too far off the end of Jose and his first reign at Chelsea. And Roman had pulled the purse strings back a little bit. The previous summer that went big on Ballack and Shevchenko. And Jose wasn't too happy with certain things at Stamford Bridge. And he wasn't given much pot in the summer of 2007. I think he brought in Sidwell, brought in Claudio Pizarro on a free as well. So, let's be honest, Mourinho was never going to make Steve Sidwell a regular at Chelsea. And I think he might have given the number 9 shirt as a bit of a wind-up. That's my theory on it.
Yeah.
He might have been winding the owner up a little bit. Fair play to Sidwell, you can't turn that move down if you're him. No matter who else is in for you. If you have a chance to go to a big club, you have to give it a
Chelsea
try.
fan as well.
And a Chelsea fan as well, so there you go.
Matchman Sidwell has went on record and said that when the Chelsea players found out that Mourinho was going, that a lot of them were in tears. In fact, Didier Drogba was on the floor in tears. And what I want to know is, how did he end up on the floor? Was there contact?
Oh, I'd say there was minimal contact, but he went down like a sack of spuds.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So it's 0-0 here in the last FA Cup tie of the weekend. What a chance for both these teams to reach the semi-final. Bristol Rovers, mind you, did go close with Ricky Lambert heading wide. He looks a handful. The Memorial Stadium looks badly cut up there. There's more grass on Bob Marley's pillow than there is on this pitch. Chris, don't be so blunt, controls the ball from Ismail Miller. Coles, he stepped up. Is he trying to play offside? Well, it clearly hasn't worked. Bentner controls it. He powers forward. Players bouncing off him. Bentner with a primary school towboat from 20 yards out. Rovers keeper, Captain Phillips, no, not the film, with a touch of the parries. It's fallen in the box. James Morrison with a tap-in. The Baggies lead. The League One side did help them with a bag of coal playing offside, and Captain Phillips with the utterly bottly hands. It's Bristol Rovers 0, West Bromwich Albion 1.
Dan, are you ready for this match between Barnsley and Chelsea?
I am very much ready for this, Steve. In fact, this game dawned on me that I watched it with you and your father in your kitchen with a few cans of harp, and we fell in love with Jamaican winger Jamal Campbell-Rice.
Was this before a big night out?
Of course it was. It was a Saturday evening kick-off live on the BBC. And yeah, we were getting the car out in before we went out. The few looseners, you know.
Oh, love it. Did you watch the highlights with Motson and Lawrenson back in this one?
I did indeed, yeah. Very good.
It just gives me the warm feels, lads. Does
Yeah.
it give you the warm feels, Mush?
It does indeed. Motson was brilliant.
Okay, Barnsley versus Chelsea in the FA Cup quarter-final. Dan, what happened in this one?
Yes, Stephen, and we have a packed Oakwell with 22,410 fans in attendance, refereed by Steve Bennett. The FA Cup sixth round tie between Barnsley and Chelsea, and Barnsley lined up with a classic 4-4-2 FA Cup formation with Luke Steele in goals, a back four of Dennis Souza, Steve Foster, Bobby Hassel and Rob Kozluk, a midfield four of Marciano Van Homet, Jamal Campbell-Rice, Martin Devaney and Captain Brian Howard, and a front two of Ferenzi and Odijayu. Chelsea would make some changes, of course, like most big clubs, but had a packed team full of internationals and a 4-3-3 formation of Carlo Guidicini in goals, Belletti, centre-back pairing of Carvalho and John Terry, Wayne Bridge getting a rare game at left back in for Ashley Cole. To see him beside John Terry is a thing of beauty looking back. A midfield three of Michael Ballack, Michael Essien and Joe Cole, and a front three of tiny man Sean Wright-Phillips, Florin Maluda, and through the middle, Nicholas and Nelka. Barnsley had the better of the early exchanges, with Campbell-Rice and Brian Howard causing problems for the Chelsea back four, in particularly Belletti, who just didn't seem to fancy this cup tie. On the 20-minute mark, Odijayu went close for Barnsley after a mistake from Carlo Guidicini, but his effort went just wide of the post, spurring the Italians' blushes. Ferenzi, his strike partner, would hit the post in the 36th minute with a brilliant effort on the half volley, turning John Terry spectacularly, but the woodwork denying him. This would also be the chance of the half, with Chelsea lashing a few long-range efforts wide and high from Joe Cole, Michael Ballack, Michael Essien and Nicholas Anelka, another man who didn't seem to fancy this cup tie. 0-0 at half-time. Start of the second half, Chelsea were much better, and John Terry set up Anelka, who saw a good effort deflected just over the bar in the 56th minute. John Terry, it would seem, the only Chelsea player leading the fight in this game. Barnsley, however, continued to battle hard and play with style in the form of skipper Howard, and in the 66th minute, Dennis Souza hit a hopeful long cross into the box for Odijayu to outjump Italian Guidicini and head into an empty net. What a time to get your first goal in 29 games. The Oakwell were in jubilation, and Barnsley finally had something to hold on for after their powerful efforts. Chelsea would huff and puff, sending on Kalu and Pizarro, and even throwing John Terry up front. Carvalho almost saw red for cutting Barnsley skipper Howard in half and standing up and pleading innocence to Steve Bennett. However, he would get a yellow. Barnsley really deserved to hang on to their victory, and they would book their place in the semi-final of the FA Cup. What a battle, what a performance, what a team, what a cup run. Barnsley won, Chelsea 0, and they are on their way to Wembley.
Match man. A good old school pitch invasion at the end, Mush. Were you happy to see that?
I was indeed, Steve. I love a good pitch invasion. I think it's got a wee bit harder in the modern game to get away with that, plus with CCTV everywhere as well. But I think the stewards, just probably Barnsley fans themselves, just said, come on, let's have a whale of a time here. Get on the pitch. Groundsmen, though, not so happy.
Dan, there was a few players on show here. Rice Campbell. What ever happened to Rice Campbell?
Yeah, the Jamaican international, he was a very good player. I was impressed with him on this night, and he had a decent season for Barnsley overall. They were just really up for this cup run. I think beating Liverpool in the previous round would have gave them a lot of confidence playing against Chelsea, and they just thought, we've beaten Liverpool, we can do this. We're at home, the pitch is hard, it's a windy evening. You know, we've got a few Chelsea players rolling up with gloves and long sleeve jerseys. Let's get stuck into them. We've got a few powerhouses. Let's give it a go and see what Chelsea are made of. And they caught Chelsea off guard. There was a handful of Chelsea players who were up for it. Out of 11, that isn't enough. And overall, they deserved the win.
Are you accusing some of the Chelsea players of maybe being a bit soft for away at Barnsley?
I definitely am. Hey, there was a few who were soft, and particularly Belletti and Anelka on the night, who just weren't up for it. And then you had a couple who were a bit cold, the players who hadn't played in recent weeks and they were just thrown in and expected to deliver. And Wayne Bridge, Joe Cole and Sean Wright-Phillips, I would include in that. Although, to be fair, being English players and knowing the FA Cup well, they really should have been Chelsea's best performers. And Carvalho was off colour that night as well, playing against two strikers rather than one, which he would be used to week in Champions League and Premier League. And really, of note, only Michael Ballack and John Terry were up for it.
Barnsley end up finishing 18th in the championship, but they knocked out two of the top four. People refer to the magic of the FA Cup. What do you think that magic is? What do you think makes those nights possible for a team like Barnsley?
I think the buzz, the atmosphere, the whole build-up, after they beat Liverpool, they've got a bit of confidence. They're like, we're one game away from a semi-final. But in terms of the FA Cup, the whole build around the Barnsley area leading up to the Chelsea game would have been unbelievable. I'm sure they sacrificed some league form in preparing for the Chelsea game as well in terms of their setup of training. The whole area would have been behind them. And you see that, they've got the balloons, they've got the whole lot. It's an evening kickoff. It's got that nighttime feel, that classic cup encounter. Fans did not stop for the whole 90 minutes. And that can give players that extra 10% that they need in the final 20 minutes, 30 minutes after taking the lead. Everything about a cup tie. The pitch was hard, the ball was bouncy, the big team wasn't up for it, the smaller team was. League forms and divisional positions go out the window, and it was a real classic upset and probably one of the last brilliant cup runs from a smaller division team.
Brilliant stuff. Matchman, there was a striker in the Barnsley squad. We've mentioned him before, but he didn't get on the pitch this day either. John Mackin was at Barnsley.
Oh, Mackin was... Oh, God, he's been robbed again, has he?
By a man who hadn't scored in 29 games.
At least he scored to win the cup tie. His time at City, geez, he's sitting on the bench. David James is throwing up top, and he does nothing. So, geez, poor Mackin, hey? Geez, the life and times.
That could be a good book, The Life and Times of John Mackin.
John Mackin! No doubt Steve will buy it. Yes, my madman of the week is Joey Barton. Yes, it's Harton Joey Barton. The life and times of Joseph Anthony Barton. His initials spell the word job, which is very fitting as he sneaked a few of these on and off the pitch and is also good friends with Ricky Hatton. Barton's career and life have been marked by numerous controversial incidents and disciplinary problems. He was sentenced to 6 months behind bars for common assault and affray during an incident in Liverpool city centre, which showed CCTV Barton punching a man 20 times and attacking a teenager. This wasn't the only time Barton had bother in Liverpool city centre, as he broke a pedestrian's leg while driving his car through the early hours in the morning. He also was arrested for assault for a bus stop in the city centre with a taxi driver. Barton, born and raised in Merseyside, had a run-in with a 15-year-old Everton supporter while he was in Thailand while on pre-season. Barton was verbally abused and kicked in the shin. He didn't react kindly to this and had to be restrained by teammate Richard O.G. Dunn. Barton was sent home after this. No Thai cuisine for you, Joey. This wasn't the only clash with Everton supporters, as he walked off at full time at Goodison Park and showed his rear end in all its glory to the Toffee fans. Barton underwent anger management therapy at the order of City manager Stuart Pearce, whose nickname was Psycho, double standard Stuart, a man who put David Traffic Cone James up top when he'd a striker on the bench. I've hardly spoken about what Barton did on the pitch. As a young lad, he was told he was too small to be a footballer. Poor Joey. His first red card came in an FA Cup tie at half-time. City 3-0 down at the Lane. Barton approached the ref and abused him. He was given an early bath. City down to 10 men. Surely they wouldn't come back. Well, they did, winning 4-3 without Barton. What does that tell you? Barton got the hump and stormed out of City Stadium after not being included in a matchday squad against Southampton. A pre-season friendly against Doncaster Rovers. Surely nothing could go wrong here. Well, Barton sawed down a player and sparked a 10-man brawl. A Christmas party, a time for Barton to let off some steam. Well, Joey took thick after youth player Jamie Tandy tried to set fire to Barton's Ben Sherman shirt. Barton reacted by putting a lit cigar out on young Tandy's eye. A scummy act from a scummy man. In Barton's defence, you play with fire, you're going to get burnt, Tandy. He scored against Fulham in the celebration scene. City teammate Bernardo Corradi removed the corner flag and knifed the kneeling Barton. I think you'll be waiting a long time for that to happen, Joey. At City, he was banned from speaking to the media after previous comments regarding his fellow teammates. His time at City was up after an incident at training where he assaulted his fellow teammate Dabo. Dabo said that he'd been hit several times and was left unconscious and had to go to hospital after suffering injuries to his head. And as a result, Barton was arrested and later charged with assault and was sentenced to a 4-month suspended prison sentence plus 200 hours of community service. Barton was also charged with violent conduct by the FA, fined and banned for 6 games. Enter Big Sam with no bung involved, throwing Barton a bone with Newcastle United. Joey was at the centre of attention in the Tynemere derby after a high challenge on Black Cats Dixon Atu. Referee Martin Atkinson, not related to Ron or Rowan, didn't see this. News of the World ran a headline, "Ban him!" Sunderland fans wouldn't forget this, and the following season they threw missiles at Barton while he warmed up. Barton was accused of making a racist remark to Aston Villa's "Cabby a bug the hole." Professional lip readers said there was not enough evidence. In May 2009, Newcastle announced the suspension of Barton, and Barton was told to stay away from the club. Word on the street, this resulted from a dressing room bust-up with Alan "Where's Your Smile" Shearer and assistant manager Ian "Hey you guys" Dowie. Shearer accused Barton of a coward's tackle, to which Barton replied that he was the best player at the club. Shearer said that Barton was not. Barton was transfer listed. Newcastle were relegated, but nobody came in for Barton. But he helped them gain promotion back to the Premier League, where he punched fantasy football bargain Morton Gamps Patterson, resulting in a 3-game ban, and he made a rude gesture at Fernando Torres. Arsenal players took offence to Barton on several occasions. I wouldn't blame them. Nasri tripped him, Diaby choked him, and Song stamped on his back. Barton later said he was on the verge of joining Arsenal and decided to sign for QPR under the management of fellow madman Neil Warnock, whose love child is Paddy Kenny. At QPR, Barton was involved in a physical confrontation with Wolves player Carl Henry. Barton accused Henry of trying to hurt people. Glass houses, Joey, glass houses. Joey headbutted Norwich midfielder Bradley Johnson. Straight red card there again, Joey. Barton was skipper at QPR and kept the big C armband after Warnock was sacked and replaced by Sparky Mark Hughes. QPR fans even booed Barton in one game and cheered when he was subbed off. The famous City game where they won the title in the last seconds thanks to Aguero! Joey was sent off against his former employer after an elbow on Tevez. Wouldn't blame you there, Joey. Barton proceeded then to kick Sergio Aguero in the back of the knee and attempted to headbutt Vincent Kompany. What a size of a head that would have been to headbutt. Barton had to be dragged away from the pitch by former teammate and pundit for 60 broadcasters Michael Richards. Barton was then charged for 3 counts of violent conduct, banned for 12 games, stripped of the captain's armband, fined 6 weeks' wages, which was about £500,000. And to add salt into the Barton wound, he wasn't allowed on their pre-season tour and told one more bad act, he would have his contract ripped up. QPR then shipped him out to Marseille, of all places, where Joey said he only joined them for the coin. While in France, he had an interview where he spoke in English but with a French twang. Comedy gold, listeners, please look it up. He also called Thiago Silva an overweight ladyboy. He finished off his playing days firstly at Rangers, but this only lasted several months as he was suspended and had his contract terminated after a bust-up with teammate Andy Halliday. Burnley gave him a chance for Sean Dyche, a man who eats bowls of bricks for breakfast and washes it down with pints of sawdust, was able to help Barton stay out of trouble until Joey was banned for 18 months after being found guilty of betting charges by the FA. It is rumoured he had placed 1,260 bets over the last 10 years. It wasn't all doom and gloom for Joey. He achieved 3 promotions to the Premier League with 3 clubs. He has done a lot of charity work along with Tony Adams to help people with addictions. He has now entered the world of football management. No doubt that will be dull. My madman of the week is Joey Barton.
As I said yesterday, I make one tackle and all everybody speak about is this tackle. Nobody speaks about a 50-yard pass that kills Belmont and it causes a red card for him. And nobody talks about the shot that Landreau would have been happy to see. You know, he didn't see the ball, never mind have a chance to save it. So for me, it's important that people speak about the qualities I bring as a footballer, and I'm a little bit bored, you know, from the English media, and hopefully the French media has more about it than the English media, and concentrate on stupid little incidents like this. Maybe the one criticism of the French league is it's a little bit boring, you know. And I can understand, you know. I watched Lille yesterday. They have 10 men and they're happy to lose 1-0. You know, they have 10 men, and for me, you might as well lose 5-0 as 1-0. You know, it's still no point. He's Argentine and I'm English. It's big difference, big difference.
Balls against the walls.
This week's Balls Against the Wall quiz is sponsored by the ball Robbie Fowler busted Cardiff manager Dave Jones in the face with after Fowler was told he wasn't fit enough for Cardiff's FA Cup final squad.
Oh, what a ball.
Yes, welcome to the Balls Against the Wall quiz, the quiz where I pit Dan against Mush to see who has the best football knowledge. The score so far this season is 6-3 to Dan, so Mush needs to get back on the board here. We are blessed as ever, lads, to have Ua Cantona here taking the scores. Hello, Eric.
Eric, what's your favourite FA Cup memory?
I am Cantona.
Oh, that's my favourite too, Eric. Superb. Lads, this week all the questions are about the FA Cup in the year 2007-2008. The buzzers for this week are any player who scored a goal in the 2007-2008 FA Cup. Dan, who have you went with?
Phillips.
Oh, would that be Kevin?
Oh yes, Kevin Phillips.
And Matchman, who have you went with?
Shitu!
And who did he notch for in the FA Cup?
Danny Shitu notch for Watford.
Lads, we are playing for the number 2 single in that week in March 2008, and it is Mercy by Duffy. If Dan wins this week, Mush will surely be asking for some mercy. You will know when the quiz is over when you hear this sound.
Absolute load of nonsense. Absolute load of nonsense.
Question 1. Who wore the number 1 shirt for Portsmouth?
Phillips.
Yes, Dan.
David James.
Calamity James is correct. Which Premier League 100 club player wore number 8 for Cardiff City?
Phillips.
Yes, Dan.
Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Matchman.
Fowler.
Fowler is correct.
Oh.
Who sponsored the FA Cup?
Phillips.
Shitu!
Yes, Dan.
AXA.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Mush.
Eon.
Eon is correct.
Egon, very good. Egon.
Who was the ref in the FA Cup final?
Shitu!
Yes, Mush.
Mike Dean.
Mike Dean is correct.
Ah!
What a shite. Loves a referee, this man.
What phone company sponsored West Brom shirts?
Phillips.
Yes, Dan.
T-Mobile.
Correct. Who did West Brom beat 5-1 to reach the semi-finals?
Shitu!
Yes, Mush.
Bristol Rovers.
Correct. Who partnered Wayne Rooney up front for Manchester United in their shock loss to Portsmouth in the quarters?
Shitu!
Yes, Mush.
Tevez.
Tevez is correct. Which ex-England and West Ham player adjudicated every round of the FA Cup draw on the telly? He used to stand in the back, lads, watching them pick the balls.
Phillips.
Yes, Dan.
Trevor Brooking.
Correct. It is
Yes!
Trevor Brooks.
What a shout, Donald. What a shout.
Who knocked Liverpool out of the FA Cup?
Phillips.
Shittu.
Yes, Dan.
Barnsley.
Barnsley is correct. Who was the last Englishman to win an FA Cup before Harry Redknapp?
Phillips.
Yes, Dan.
Terry Venables.
Incorrect.
Oh.
Mush.
It's a punt. George Graham.
Incorrect. It was Joe Royal.
Joe Royal, 95. Yeah. Forgot about that one.
Who scored the winner in the FA Cup final?
Shittu.
Phillips.
Oh, that was Mush.
Oh.
Canu.
Canu is correct.
Absolute load of nonsense. Absolute load of nonsense.
We're going over to Eric with the scores. What are the scores, Eric? Daniel. 4, Conair, 6. Oh, Mush has pulled one back. He's pulled one back. There will be no mercy for Percy. It is 6-4.
Enjoyed that one. Very good questions. Bit of knowledge there. Learned as well. Very good quiz.
It's match of the week. Bloody hell.
Welcome to the match of the week. It's just finished at the Riverside between Middlesbrough and Cardiff City. The Premier League club Middlesbrough against the Championships Cardiff. There couldn't be an upset here, surely. Mush the Matchman, what has happened at the Riverside?
Yes, the David Blaine Shazam magic has continued on this coupon buster of an FA Cup as goals from Peter Whittingham and Roger Johnson helped Championship side Cardiff under direction of Davy Jones's locker dump Middlesbrough out of the FA Cup and leave Gareth North Fence Southgate with a squandered look on an already pokey face. Borough fans pre-kick-off were coming to the terms with the fact they were now second favourites to win the FA Cup. I'm not even sure they were second favourites when they were last in the final against Chelsea 11 years ago. Big Schnout Southgate played a strong side. He blew his big nose and stuck Robert Hoof straight back into the starting 11 after his spell on the sidelines with a gammy foot. Out goes Jonathan Coffee Grounds. The reliable George Boateng benched for Fabio Rochenbach, who is into using his birds for cockfighting, I kid you not. As for Davy Jones's locker, he's made one change from his side's defeat last week at home. Out goes club captain Doran Pursestrings after he scored an OG and tried to blame the wind. Well, he wasn't kidding Jack Sparrows. He walked the plank and trusted to guard the cannon. Today was Roger Johnson. Still no Robbie Fowler in the Cardiff squad. He's still on the shelf after a horror tackle from his own teammate. Doran loose change in my purse at training last year. Poor Fowler still hasn't recovered. The action got underway to a fairly lively Riverside and not too many red empty seats either makes a change. AA battery Alfonso Olives was giving Cardiff defender Glenn Ovens a few early scares. The game was not 10 minutes old when Whittingham gave Cardiff the lead with a great individual effort. He took down a bouncing ball, sent 3 Borough defenders for a taxi and opened up his body like a beautiful free bird and curled the ball from 20 yards out into the top right bins. Mark Schwarzer wouldn't have stopped it if he had the spring of Terry Venables' pet kangaroo, Carlton Palmer. Borough are furious though, especially Southgate and his squawky face, as the initial ball was definitely handled by Stephen McPhail before falling to Whittingham. Cardiff had their tails up now as Capaldi found space to cross for Jimmy Floyd Robberbank. He was totally unmarked. He connected with his Dutch diamond, but he sent it wide. Halfway through the first half, Cardiff doubled their lead. Jimmy Floyd Robberbank was caught by officer of the Tyneside Law and cockfighter Rochenbach. Whittingham crossed wonderfully. Johnson escaped Austrian Pogatetz to meet the ball with a diving header and dart the ball past Schwarzer. Not a good day, mate, for him. 2-0, the upset is on. Borough and AA battery Olives forced a parry from Peter Ankerman. That's about as good as it got for Borough in the first half, as Cardiff looking very cosy and head in at half-time. 2-0 up, and deservedly so. My Mido used to be Martin. Yours Mido was on for AA Alves as Southgate uses his beaky nose to shake his team up for the second half. I dare say it'll take a bit more than that, Gareth. Borough, mind you, repeating their first half performance and looking uninterested, disjointed, short of inspiration. Gareth's half-time words must have worked a treat. Borough continue to achieve nothing with possession and Cardiff seem very content to sit on what they've got, like a mother hen sitting on an egg ready to hatch. Southgate has picked us a winner from his nose and sent Hoof up top taking a leaf out of the special one, Hosey's playbook. Trevor Sinclair is on, a man who won goal of the season in this competition in 1997 for a bicycle kick. Hoof, with an effort well wide in injury time, as good as it got. Southgate's packer couldn't muster up anything. Mike Dean finally calls time on this cup tie. Cardiff players and fans celebrate like it's the last day of school. Cardiff are going to Wembley for the first time since the 1920s when the BBC was formed. Their chairman, Peter Ridsdale, no doubt already spending the prize money. The Riverside, which was half empty before the final whistle, breaks into a chorus of boos, and rightly so, as Southgate and his players have been awful today. Cardiff pre-kickoff hadn't beaten a Premier League opposition since 2002, but then again, the way this season is going under Crow features Southgate and the way they have played today, Borough may not be a Premier League side all that much longer. The magic of the FA Cup is alive in kicking. It's finished here. Middlesbrough 0, Cardiff City 2. Back to you in the studio, Steve.
The magic of the FA Cup indeed, Dan. Do you think this was a big shock?
Yes, it was a big shock. I think any time a team from a lower division beats a Premiership side, it's a shock. The Riverside was a tricky place to go to over the years, so I do feel it was a shock on the day. But Dave Jones had Cardiff organised. They were ready to go. They had some talented players. Hasselbank, obviously, against his former club. Peter Whittingham, who was a lovely footballer. They certainly were showing a few traits of what was to come when a few years later they were getting promoted. And this Middlesbrough side, probably just coming to the end in terms of squad, and Southgate was struggling.
You mentioned Fabio Rockham back there for his cockfighting abilities. I couldn't believe it when I actually read this, but police found birds used for cockfighting at a building owned by him in Brazil. And then in 2017, he was arrested on further charges of involvement in the blood sport of cockfighting. Nothing better to do than get himself involved in illegal activities.
Did you say blood sport there?
Cockfighting is a blood sport.
And was Jean-Claude Van Damme involved with this as well?
He hasn't been named in the racket, Dan, but...
No, just when you said blood sport there, my eyes lit up. You know, I thought you were talking about some sort of martial arts cockfighting that maybe Van Damme was involved with.
That was what was in my head, Dan, but I have no evidence to suggest that actually happened. Matchman, what is it with these Brazilians?
I do think they are a bit lit. They're not fully there. Maybe they're just bored when they come to England as well too. Whatever you do in your spare time is whatever you do, but as long as it's legal, you know.
And to sort of even it up, one header on the Middlesbrough side, one absolute lunatic on the Cardiff side, Jimmy Floyd rob a bank. We've talked about the Dutchman before, Dan. I haven't really given him a touch because I know how much you love Holland, but this man is an absolute lunatic. He was named in 2016 in a sting operation where he basically negotiated a deal to work with a fictitious firm looking to become involved in the transfers of footballers. And then, despite him actually managing QPR, he was open to the idea of signing players represented by this fictitious firm.
Was he a brilliant striker?
Yes. He was very good, yeah.
Oh, that's all right then.
I don't think Dan wants to go into it too much because it would probably break his wee heart.
Oh no, dodgy dealings from Jimmy and dodgy dealings from QPR as well. Like, no surprise to see him managing QPR at the time of these shady deals. So no, never good to get involved in anything dodgy if you're a professional manager, certainly if you're in charge of a club at the time. So a big mistake on Jimmy's part and probably set him back because he was on the way up.
Yes, the dodgy dealings at QPR were they launched their own internal investigation against Hasselbank and then released a statement fully supporting him and said that there was nothing untoward, as they would do if they were involved.
If they thought they were going to get some player profits. This week's Maverick of the Week is the one and only Nwankwo Kanu. Yes, the tall, gangly, skillful Nigerian striker who had a fascinating career which began with Federation Works, what a name that is, before moving to Iwan Yanwu National. And he impressed enough there to represent his country at the Under-17 World Championships. It was at these championships where Kanu was scouted and snapped up by Ajax and Dutch madman Louis van Gaal in 1993. Kanu proved a hit with Ajax, winning all in sight, and played in back-to-back Champions League finals in 1995 and 1996, alongside the likes of the De Boer twins, Jori Litmanen, Clarence Seedorf, Patrick Kluivert, Edgar Davids, Danny Blind, and his fellow countryman, Finidi George. Like most of the Ajax squad, they were sold on for profit, and Kanu was no different. And in the summer of 1996, after impressing at the Olympic Games for Nigeria, Kanu was moved to Inter Milan for £4.7 million. However, Kanu sadly soon developed a heart problem that stopped him from playing and showing Inter Milan what he was all about. But some good news came of this, as it led to Kanu founding the Kanu Heart Foundation, which helped young African children with heart conditions. What a hero. After such bad luck and needing a fresh start after just 12 games in 3 seasons with Inter, Kanu made the bold move to join Arsenal and Arsene Wenger in 1999 to add to a fine attack including Dennis Bergkamp, Nicolas Anelka and Marc Overmars. Kanu was a breath of fresh air for Arsenal and scored some wonderful goals against Derby County, Tottenham Hotspurs, Sheffield Wednesday, Aston Villa, and a quite magnificent hat-trick against Chelsea in the 1999-2000 season. Kanu would find himself rotated quite a bit in the coming seasons, however more than played his part in Arsenal's success in the early noughties, and is very much remembered by the Gunners faithful. And when you think about the attack back then, it was no wonder Wenger rotated with Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Sylvain Wiltord, Davor Suker, Francis Jeffers, just to name a few. Kanu's contract with Arsenal ran out in 2004, and seeking first-team football, he joined Brian Cans Robson at West Bromwich Albion on a free transfer. And he would spend 2 years at the Hawthorns, helping West Brom stay up in 2005. However, they were to get relegated the following season in 2006. Kanu would turn down a new contract with West Brom as he didn't see himself as a championship player, and he was quickly moved on to Harry Redknapp's Portsmouth on a free transfer. Kanu would prove a huge hit at Pompey, bringing much needed flair and something different to their attack. He was also wrapped in cotton wool by Harry Redknapp, who gave Kanu his own driver, as the big striker would sometimes be so knackered after a game he would need a wheelchair. This would result in Harry Redknapp and his number 2 and Kanu's former teammate Tony Adams having debates about Kanu's real age. Oh, to be a fly on the wall of those conversations. Portsmouth will of course find themselves in financial difficulty, and Kanu would drop a court dispute as they owed the big man £3 million. Such was the kindness of Kanu, he decided not to take it any further and help the club. Kanu's international career was glittering. He had a wonderful career spanning 16 years, helping Nigeria win the Under-17 World Championships in 1993, and he won Olympic gold in 1996, where Kanu scored twice in a 4-3 final against R9's Brazil. Watch this game, listeners. Kanu also went to 3 World Cup finals in 1998, 2002 and 2010. His honours read as follows: 535 club games, 123 goals. For his country, 87 caps and 12 goals. I have no doubt he would have smashed over 100 but for his 3-year illness. He won 4 Dutch leagues, 1 Champions League, 1 UEFA Super Cup, 1 World Intercontinental Cup, 1 UEFA Cup, 2 Premier Leagues, 3 FA Cups, Olympic gold. He was an Under-17 World Champion. He won 2 African Player of the Years, 2 BBC African Player of the Years. He was man of the match in the 2008 FA Cup final, and he scored the winning goal at the Emirates in Dennis Bergkamp's testimonial for Arsenal. In conclusion, Kanu has had a wonderful career and fascinating life. He was elegant in possession, could pick a pass, a unique talent, could score goals. He was an intelligent player and an unselfish player. This week's Maverick of the Week is Kanu.
What a man. When you compare him to Joey Barton, it's just like two different humans, aren't they?
That's why we have the madman and the Mavericks, I suppose. Kanu, some player.
He wore the number 4 shirt, Dan. It was a tribute to his idol, Stephen Keshi, who later coached the Nigerian side. It was one of his favourite players, used to wear the number 4.
You know, he lost those years at Inter Milan. It would have been great to see him and R9 up front together. You know, they would have tortured a fair few defences back then, because he had a really good record at Ajax too, Kanu. So, deprived those years and then just needed the fresh start with Arsenal. And he's a good player for Arsenal as well.
What was that game you mentioned, the Brazil-Nigeria game?
Yes, the 1996 Olympic Games final.
Right.
In Atlanta, and Nigeria were losing twice in the game, and Keanu just took it by the throat and scored twice and stole the show. He was the tournament's best player, and helped them take over a very talented Brazil team.
What age is he now?
78.
Right. And is he still playing, or?
Yes, he's playing somewhere.
Man United searching for a breakthrough, but by God, Harry's heroes digging deep. Soulman, Campbell, Dustbin, Diston, and David, not so calamity anymore, James at the back in particular. United guilty of being very wasteful in the final third. They have a free kick out on the left after Diarra with his egghead brought down Nanny. No, not my grandmother or yours. Nanny, not Nanny on Nan bread with a free kick. United have loaded the box in search of a winner. David James comes and catches the ball. He wouldn't have done that in the 90s. James sees United have left two at the back, and he sees two Pompey players up there. Massive kick by James. Anderson, the potty animal, back defending. Oh, he's let the ball bounce. Milan Boros, he's out-muscled him. He manages to use his knee to pass it wide to Harry's love child, Nico Grenshaw. He's free. He advances forward. Both Anderson and Granny Rooney both go to the ball. Nico sucked him in. He squares it back to Barros. The ex-Liverpool man with a touch inside. Chance for Poppy. Out comes go to the producer, Kujak. Boris is pulled out by the pole. Surely a penalty. It is a penalty. And it's a red card too. Now then, what do United do? Kujak was a sob as he came on for Van der Sar early on. I don't believe it. It looks like Rio Ferdinand is going to do goals in this cup tie. United have battered Pompey, but Pompey now have a chance to win it.
The matchman describing the penalty there that Montari tucked away and sent Portsmouth through to the semi-finals, knocking Manchester United out of the FA Cup. Any chances of a treble were killed. Lads, we watch this one back again. Another giant killing. So that's 3 giant killings in 4 games over the weekend of the quarterfinals of this FA Cup. Mush, you had a look at loads of different years of FA Cups, and this was probably the one weekend that stood out where 3 big boys really went out and the magic of the FA Cup was alive. What did you make of this one? Did Portsmouth deserve to win at Old Trafford? Harry Redknapp in his autobiography said they definitely did. What is the matchman's opinion?
I think Corey's laying there. I think I will give Portsmouth credit on the day. They defended brilliantly as a team, and with Diston and Campbell at the back. And James was actually very good. He tipped a shot onto the post, and there was a clearance as well too off the line. Carrick 2 yards out. You think it's going in. I think it's Diston gets back there, but United just battered them, and Pompey took their one chance. Nico Grenshaw was actually in the wall, which Nani took the free kick, and fair play to him. He sprinted straight up and was involved in the attack, which led to the penalty. Kujak, probably a rush of blood to the head, came out, but it was just one of those games where the ball just wouldn't go to the back of the net for United, and the fairy tale for Pompey continued.
Was it a penalty and a red card, do you feel?
Yes, I think Boros probably has played it as well too, but I think when Kujak came out like that there, he's asking for contact then, and Boros he used his streetwise head, so I think it was a penalty, and then he's no option but to send him off.
I actually lay the blame in terms of watching it back with a Phelan, Anderson and Rooney. On any other day, you'd be saying to them, one of you two should have wiped him out before he got near the 18-yard box, conceded a free kick and took the yellow card. Neither player did that. They fancied their chances of stopping. It was clear as well that Manchester United didn't want a replay. It was very much a cup final type game where Portsmouth were sitting in. They had to take a replay. They had a good record at Fratton Park. Manchester United, with their schedule and going for the league and Champions League as well, didn't want that. They were convinced they were going to get the goal, and then they get nailed on the break in classic fashion.
Do you think Kujak had a touch of the willies, or was he right to come out?
I think there was just a lack of communication. You had the wrong players tracking, as I said, Anderson and Rooney and Kujak. They probably didn't speak a whole lot to each other. It might have been a different situation, say if it was Patrice Evra and Michael Carrick tracking back with Kujak.
Not a lot of communication when you've got Scooter, the producer, Anderson, who was at United for about 7 years and couldn't speak a word of English, and then Rooney, the scouser.
Yes, a Polish DJ, samba dancer, and Scouse Rooney, and it's just no.
Matchman, Kushak gets sent off. Rio ends up in the bags. How did you think he got on as a keeper?
I didn't have high hopes for Rio now. I doubt he would have been practicing for penalties during the week.
No.
That's clear as well in the penalty. Rio, to be fair to him, he does go the right way, but he's nowhere near. He actually dives onto his stomach, which I think is hilarious. Look, fair play to him to go in there. You know, he's wearing Kushak's jersey and he's wearing Kushak's gloves. And,
what do you think Ferguson would have said after the game? Hair dryer to Kushak, or are you just being like, oh, just one of them games?
He was the opposite. It was just he actually blamed the referee for not rewarding United a stonewall penalty in the first half when Ronaldo was impeded. And if you look back at that, if anyone looks back at that, Ronaldo is suplexed in the box. So
was it a fisherman or a German?
I think it was a fisherman. So Sir Alex was quite rightly to feel aggrieved, but he also probably would have blamed his players finishing as well because they had numerous chances. Just one of those FA Cup stories. Great for the neutral, great for the clubs involved. Something different for the FA Cup. Keeps the kind of dreamers and the hopes alive for clubs as well. You know, it wasn't a competition dominated by the big four of England, who were four of the best teams in Europe at the time as well. So not a refreshing run. And in terms of Portsmouth had some excellent players.
Yeah.
You know, Sol Campbell, Canu, David James had really sort of hit his peak in his later years. Sully Montari in midfield, who went on to win the treble with Inter Milan. Some very good players.
Big Brucey's bedtime bath, nice and warm, full of suds, a scented candle, a rubber duck. In the bath, Brucey don't give up, dreams of passes to be. Dreams of passes to be.
I've got the story ready. Can you just check that Brucey's all right in the bath?
Steve, come on, it's bath time. And have I got a surprise for you? Your former teammate and Hull assistant manager, Mike Phelan, is joining you in the bath tonight. And I also got you both a couple of inflatable FA Cups to play with. It's not for Mike, though. He likes to play with an empty bottle of matey bubble bath. I hope the two of you enjoy this little treat. And I've got the towels ready for you afterwards. Enjoy, Brucey.
Okay, Brucey and Mike. That's a tight squeeze for you two. This week's story comes from Harry Redknapp. 2008 was the season we won the FA Cup, beating Cardiff City 1-0. I know in my CV this stands as the highlight of my career, but believe me, I'm as proud, if not prouder, of other achievements. Keeping Portsmouth in the Premier League, winning promotion with Bournemouth. I think these are every bit as special as my big day at Wembley and success in the lottery of a cup competition. Not that it wasn't wonderful. The elite clubs are so powerful now that very few managers get a chance to win one of the big prizes. So to do that was obviously very, very special. Beating Manchester United away in the quarterfinals was a memorable day too. They had a good team out. Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Scholes, Wayne Rooney, Carlos Tevez. But we deserved our win from a penalty by Sully Montari. It meant I had knocked Manchester United out of the FA Cup with 3 clubs. Bournemouth, West Ham United and Portsmouth. I'm proud of that too. We beat West Brom in the semi-final on the 5th of April. And then it was back to Wembley the following month to play Cardiff, the first Welsh team to reach the final since they were last there in 1927. We had some big match experience in the side. Canu had won the Champions League, the UEFA Cup, the Premier League and the FA Cup. But for many of the others, this was the game of their lives. On the night before, to ease the tension, I took the players to a little Italian restaurant in Henley. I booked it out and ordered in a karaoke machine for later. I'll never forget Herman Ryderson, our Icelandic left back, turning up in a full Elvis Presley outfit and bringing the house down. He did the greatest impression. I'd asked Kenny Lynch, an old mate of mine, to do a few gags for the boys later, and after watching Herman, he turned to me and said, "How the hell am I meant to follow that?" Herman had the lot, the Elvis wig, the white suit, the gold chains, the glasses, the moves. The only trouble was his voice was horrendous. But that just made it even funnier. Herman used to live near me in Poole. When him and his wife had their friends over from Iceland, they would always start a sing-song in our local restaurant. They were brilliant fun. Sometimes preparation is about more than just a tactics board. That karaoke night completely relaxed us, and despite the slender scoreline, we were well worth our victory in the FA Cup final. So, even without my friend Milan, I had a wonderful run at Portsmouth the second time around. In fact, the only sour note concerned events happening off the field. By 2007, I was the subject of a criminal investigation, but a year earlier, the BBC News programme Panorama had linked my name to an investigation into corruption in football. What a load of rubbish it was. I was accused of tapping up Andy Todd of Blackburn Rovers, and they suggested that Kevin Bond was taking backhanders to make certain transfers happen. It was an absolute farce. I wanted to sue the BBC when the programme was broadcast, but those things only end up dragging on and becoming a lot of time, money and hassle. So eventually, I let it go. I know Sir Alex Ferguson didn't speak to the BBC for years when they made damaging accusations about his son, but that's not my style. I couldn't blame the sports guys for something Panorama did, but that doesn't mean I wasn't upset by it. Well, Stephen, Mike, that is the end of the story. Mike, how did you find it in the bath?
It is a more relaxed environment. It's definitely more of a personal, you get that personal touch, that personal feel. It's amazing how it's different. It is different. There's a nice chilled out feel. It's unfortunate we can't do that a little bit more, but our schedule is such.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're both busy men, busy schedules, as you've said, but hopefully we can make it happen where you and Brucey are back in the bath together sometime soon. Okay, now it's time to pick another player in our Simpsons Lookalike 11, and it's my pick this week, and it's the final pick to make up our Simpsons 11. We needed a defender, lads, and I went with someone who a lot of people may not know, but I'll tell you a little bit about him. His name is Alexi Lalas, and he is a standout defender for the United States of America in 1994 for their home World Cup. He went on to become the first US player ever to play in Serie A, making 44 appearances for Padova before going back to join the newly formed MLS with the New England Revolution. The reason I've picked Alexi Lalas is because he is the spit of the Simpsons evil genius and the ideal boss for any man, Hank Scorpio.
Oh!
He's got a big ginger bop and a big ginger beard. And there's not too many footballers have both. I'll run through the whole 11 in a minute, lads. But Alexi Lalas, another reason that I picked him, Dan, is because he is also a fan of hammocks. Do you know where you could pick up a hammock, Dan?
Hammocks or us.
Right. Any other hammock stores?
A Hammock Central.
Right. Is there, Matchman, is there a hammock district?
There's a hammock district down on Hammock Avenue. It's actually down by the hammock region.
Is that on 3rd?
I think it's on 3rd, yeah.
Right, okay. I'm just going to run through the 11. In goals, we have Peter McBean Schmeichel. We have a back three of Alexi Hank Scorpio Lalas, Alan Skinner Hansen, and Julian Kearney Dix. The defensive midfielder is Attilio Monty Burns Lombardo. Right centre midfield, Giles Jacques de Boer-Gramondi. And left centre midfield, Diego the Yellow Weasel Simeone. Attacking midfielder, David Dr. Nick Silva. Right forward, Ollie Wendell Solskjaer. Striker, Olivier Freddy Quimby Giroud. And left forward, Luis Cletus the Slack-Jawed Yokel Suarez. 1-11, lads. Are you proud?
Very proud of this team. I like the 3-4-3. I like our front three. I think it's got a little bit of everything. And a little bit mad at the back, but Skinner will sort the other two out. And with McBean in the bags, do you even need a defence?
Very good question, Dan. We might not need a defence, but what we do need is a gaffer.
Oh!
And Matchman, it's your pick next week. Have you got a gaffer in mind?
I do indeed, Steve. I've actually got two, so I'm tossing and turning to decide who's going to lead the Simpsons 11 in the battle.
Do you have Evans and Houllier situation, or will you choose an outright manager?
Oh, I never thought of that co-manager deal, Dano. You've actually got me thinking now. I'm not going to sleep tonight thinking about what's going to happen here. Co-managers of a Simpsons 11.
Well, you are the chief executive of the Simpsons 11, so you can do whatever you want.
Leave it with me.
Okay, great stuff. And on your way out, if you want to kill somebody, that would really help me a lot. So that is the end of this week's pod, folks. We hope you've enjoyed our giant killings of FA Cup 2008. Next week, it's our final issue of the season, but don't worry, we're going out on top. We're going out with World Cup 2002. Dan, what have we got in store?
Oh, we have so much in store with the 2002 World Cup. 2 countries hosting. We have the world's best players on show. We have bust-ups, betrayals, wonderful goals, a legend rising back into the game, and so much to talk about. I can't even think at the moment.
Matchman, what are you looking forward to about the World Cup in Korea, Japan?
A couple of mad upsets in the group stages. Obviously, the decline of France, who were the holders, how the hosts fared. Also, the Turks, we got to a semi-final. Who would have thought that? And Ronaldo's redemption.
So it's good night from me, and it's good night from Dan. Say good night, Dan.
Good night, Dan.
And it's good night from Mush, the Matchman. Say good night, Mush.
Good night, Mush.
See you next week.